One of the leaders of Utah's consumer sector is Susan Peterson, CEO and founder of Freshly Picked, a Lehigh-based company that provides beautiful and functional products for mothers and babies. Motivated by a lack of quality baby footwear that fit her son's feet, Peterson founded Freshly Picked in 2009 and spent many late nights at her kitchen table sewing leather moccasins for yard sale scraps. With over 1 million pairs sold, Peterson continues to focus on what matters, empowering moms with beautiful and functional products. Can I get a warm welcome for Susan Peterson? I think you're the sneakerhead queen yourself, though.
No,
I'm not.
You
put great shoes on babies, everyone.
Because I have terrible feet, so I wear sneakers. I wish I could wear cute shoes like that.
Well, thank you. But I would be more comfortable in that. Okay, I'm going to put my timer here because I'm going to forget. Because I feel like we could talk. Susan and I have met each other a few times. You speak a lot. And I've heard your story a lot. But I think today we're surrounded by an audience of founders and entrepreneurs themselves, so this could be a really fun conversation. I want them to get to know you a little bit, though, aside from Freshly Picked. I know you travel quite a bit. Has there been a fun trip this year, or what's the best place you've been to?
Yeah, we took our kids to New York for the month of June and rented an apartment, and it was just really fun, just our family. I was 4.
Fun.
Yeah.
I served in New York.
Oh,
I lived in Harlem for a year and a half. Quite fun.
We didn't
Is that
get
where you
there.
went?
No, we were in
You
the
were in
Upper
Harlem?
East Side.
No? Okay.
You stopped over in Harlem once. You got off the subway there, right?
On accident?
No,
No.
kind of.
Okay. Well, prior to Freshly Picked, let's hear a little bit about what you were doing and then what sparked Freshly Picked.
I was a stay-at-home mom, actually. I had my daughter was 2.5, almost 3 when I started Freshly Picked, and my son had just been born. My husband Chris was in college at the U. We were living in downtown Salt Lake, and I really was just trying to figure out how to make money. That's it. I didn't go to college, and my most relevant experience was being a waitress. I lived in Vail, Colorado for 4 years, snowboarding and working the après shift at a restaurant called the Coyote Cafe. And it was just serving drinks. My manager at the time had, she had a motto. It was, talk the trash, shake your ass, make the cash. And it was,
Yes.
apparently she used to work at Hooters, and that's their motto, which I really like. But
That's an outlier. Write that down. You could use that.
but it was my first sales experience, just trying to figure out how to serve. We had a ton of locals that would come into the restaurant I worked at, and the après shift is post-lunch, pre-dinner. So you come off the hill and you want to have a drink with your friends. And there was a bunch of bougie spots in Beaver Creek, and I worked at the local spot. In fact, you could buy a mug at the beginning of the season, and then you would get discounted beer all season. So I got to the point where I knew everyone had a mug number, and so the locals would come in, I knew their mug number, and I knew their orders. So if I would see, I don't remember their names at this point, but if I saw someone I knew come in, I'd pull his mug, fill it up with whatever I knew he drank, and then have it sitting there by the time he got his jacket off. And I made really good money.
That's great customer service, I feel like. Do we have that here in Deer Valley? Just like a bar that we can go to right after we speak?
Probably not at Deer Valley. Maybe at Snowbird or Alta, Brighton.
Okay, so how long before was that from Freshly Picked, and where was the moment that you decided to do something else?
Yeah, so I moved to Utah, and then my husband and I got married, and then 2 years later we started having children, and I had been working, but it felt it was it was a decision we made that we wanted someone to stay home with the kids. And we had gone over to one of our friends' house, and the wife had her dining room table just full of sewing projects. And I didn't know how to sew at the time, but my mom sewed my clothes growing up. So I had seen it, but we weren't allowed to touch her machine because it was like a working member of the family. Like it was part of our profit. And so I asked my friend, I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm making stuff and selling it online. And I can just remember looking at her and being like, you're not smarter than me. I bet I could make stuff and sell it online. So I called my mom and I convinced her to buy me a sewing machine for my birthday. It was, I think, July. My birthday's in November, but she did it. And then I just started sewing stuff and putting it on Etsy. Etsy was brand new. I think I was like user 630 something, like really early adopter. And at the time, the Etsy feed was chronological. So every 2 hours, you would take down all your listings and then relist them. And then just do that a couple times a day. And I would make a couple hundred dollars a week or a month. And it was awesome. At the time, I didn't understand business taxes. I'm still kind of muddy on business taxes, but I have really smart people who know what they're doing. But I didn't know, so I was spending it as quick as it was coming in. You know, like there was no saving the money. But when my son was born, I really wanted a pair of leather moccasins for him. So that's when I started making the moccasins, was then.
I feel like that's a number of entrepreneurs start where it's a personal need of some sort. So how long did you sell on Etsy before you formed an LLC, or was it right at that time you were making first?
I don't know. You can listen.
You morphed.
Yeah, no, and you can really just like backtrack it. Like a lot of that stuff you don't have to do up front. No, you can take money way before you form an LLC.
Oh, and we're very used to also helping companies change from LLC to C Corp. Like
don't do it.
It's just okay. Well, as Freshly Picked started to grow, what was that moment of hiring your first employee? Who was that?
Christian. He was also my first fire.
Oh, yeah. Did you get paid as well, or it was sweat equity?
Yeah, he got paid. I fired him though.
Okay. Yeah. Outside the family, who was it?
We lived in Provo at the time, and I utilized interns, and I would have them come and like cut stuff and ship. So I don't know. There was a few of those rotating, and then what really. We were working in my basement in Provo, and moving into an office space kind of solidified like, oh, I kind of need to look outside my friends and family, which is a great place to start. If you're hiring employees, first round of hiring, friends and family is a great place to start. And then it was like, I need to start looking for experts, and I can't direct every department. And so, really understanding what I was good at, which was marketing and sales, and then and activation and community building, and hiring people to do the stuff that I know how to interpret, and I know the impact that it has on the business, but I don't want to build models, and I don't want to collect data, and I don't want to pay bills, and I don't want to get an LLC renewed, and I don't want to pay my taxes. Like, I just need someone to do that for me.
Well, and I think I've heard you say, do what you do best,
hire out the rest. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Those are milestones, I think, getting someone who you didn't know previously, but you hired them, and they weren't a friend or a family member, but also even moving into a new space. Mm-hmm. Thinking about even just now, we have something at RevRoad where we say your vibe attracts your tribe.
Interesting.
Who would you, or what characteristics are you looking for someone to be a good culture fit for Freshly Picked?
That's such a good question. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm 100% out of the day-to-day at Freshly Picked. So
This is
I'm the
good.
chairwoman. Yeah,
Okay,
we have a
getting to
CEO. So it is. I don't know. Our daughter is a senior in high school, and I imagine it feels like what it's like to watch your child go to college, where you're still paying for a lot of it, but you have no control over the decisions that they're making, you know? So Freshly Picked is amazing, and the team that is thriving with the new CEO is not a team that would probably thrive under me, and vice versa. I am involved in another startup, and then I also have a podcast studio that I just started up. And so I can speak to those things a little better. The first thing I'm looking for is always someone who's not afraid of work and not afraid to really take initiative. And I say that because there are people, everyone will say, well, I'm not afraid to work, but it's not like the 8 to 5. It's like, are you trying to actively solve problems that I can't see? And I mean, anyone can be a problem pointer outer. Anyone. It does not take any sort of schooling. It doesn't take any special skills. What I'm always looking for is, and I tell every girl that works for me, and if you're a woman, this is it: number and narrative. You need to know your numbers inside and out on your business, and then you have to have a narrative around those numbers. And so when I'm looking for problem solvers, I need you to understand the scope of the problem, have a narrative as to why it's happening, and then have 1 to 2 solutions of how we can fix it. And so those are the type of people that I'm really looking for, is someone who's not afraid to speak up, not afraid to work hard, and not afraid to take a chance on a problem solving.
I love that. And someone, I mean, even thinking about sales, I know that the best salespeople aren't blowing smoke using fancy words. They know the ins and outs of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So, love that. Okay, let's move a little bit ahead into the Shark Tank era.
I just have to say, it's been 9 years. Do you remember 9 years ago?
I remember you on Shark Tank.
Okay, but there's been a lot of trauma in between now and then, so I will do my best, but we can go.
Well, I mean, I want to hear, because
it's just at this point a memory of a memory, but we can go.
I've heard you talk about this a little bit before, and maybe some of you have as well. So I want to touch points on both highlights of what you learned, as well as, would you recommend entrepreneurs to do it?
Well, I don't know what their viewership is now. My episode had 6.5 million views, which is amazing.
How did they find you?
But just to give you context on that, the Real Housewives of New Jersey, which was probably one of the most watched reunions, had 750,000 viewers. So TV is not what it was 9 years ago. I don't know that any of their episodes now are getting 6.5 million views. But it is, if you're in the infant stage of your business, it's a really good thing that gives you a lot of accountability, and you have to just know your stuff. You have to clean up a lot of stuff. I can remember they were like, do you have any active warrants? And I was like, maybe, because I have a bad habit of not paying tickets, and we got to pay that ticket. So I was like, maybe, and so I called around to different counties, and I was looking it up. I didn't think I did, and he's like, just take care of them before we run your background check. And I was like, because you have to have a background check to go on the show. And I was like, okay, I think I'm good. So he ran background check. He's like, it's clear. Literally within 24 hours, a sheriff showed up at my door and served me with an active warrant that I had it didn't show up anywhere.
And it wasn't a joke.
It was dead serious. Yeah, it was an unpaid ticket. Yeah. But it's a great thing. You have to, they want your business to look a certain way. And, when you raise money, your business has to look a certain way. I'm sure at RevRoad, you guys help people get their business looking a certain way. And so Shark Tank was incredible for me at that point, because it really helped me understand aspects of the business that I had never experienced before.
I feel like even joining something like eComp, not even to put a plug here, but it was something that helped me even personally. All of a sudden you're looking at, I need this, and this, and this, get my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
And it can kind of propel you forward for sure.
Yeah, but if you're starting out, it's so easy to get lost in the minutia of that and think that you're actually working on your business and making sales and getting customers, and you're not. And so I think there has to be some of the stuff it's okay to be fuzzy on. Like, it's really okay to not pay your business taxes for a year or two, like if you can't, okay? But don't tell accountants that I ever said that. But it's like okay.
I think there's a few in the room actually.
It's okay to not have everything buttoned up. If I have the choice between selling and like building a spreadsheet for something, I'm gonna bring in more money. Money and sales solve a lot of problems.
I love that. Write that down. Yeah. Okay, so you would say it's a good opportunity. Take it if you can.
Yeah.
Is there something that you wish you would have prepared better for?
No. So I watched. I didn't know I thought Shark Tank was inventors, like if you invent something cool and have a patent, and I didn't realize what it was, but a couple people had said, oh, you should go on Shark Tank. So I watched a few episodes and I was like, okay, I want to do that. So I wrote it down as like, every time I have a goal, big goal, small goal, whatever, I write it down. And that was on my list of things I wanted to accomplish that year. And so we had a big sell. We had, well, let me back up. I didn't know when I started Freshly Picked, I was like, where am I going to get these customers? Where's the traffic coming from? And social media was brand new. Facebook was killing it, and Instagram was really brand new. And I had been at my friend's house. And everyone was having a really good experience on Facebook. And they were like, get on Facebook. But I was just kind of like, I don't really like Facebook. Because, social media is like sex. When your parents are doing it, it's not cool anymore. And my parents were fully embracing Facebook. And I was like, there's got to be something cooler. So I was at my friend's house, and she was breastfeeding her baby. And she was scrolling on Instagram showing me something. And at the time, now everyone has it, but this was 2014, 2013. Instagram was the only social media app that lent itself to a one-finger scroll. Every other app, you needed 2 fingers on your phone. And I can remember being like, oh my gosh, moms are going to be on Instagram because you have to do everything with one hand, especially moms of babies, which is my target audience. So I didn't even have a Facebook page. I put everything into Instagram. And that year, so the year before I went on Shark Tank, I was like, okay, I'm going to get to 10,000 followers, because when you got to 10,000, you got a K. Yeah, a K. So I was like, I want the K. So I spent the whole year pretty much just on Instagram all the time. I mean, I was doing everything. I think I started giveaways on Instagram, and again, it was chronological back then. And so I did a giveaway once, and my friends were all like, I hate you. All I see in my feed is this Freshly Picked giveaway. And by the end of the year, I had 10,000 followers, and then it just started to like compound really quickly after that. And by May of the following year, I had 30,000 followers, and I'd never put my product on sale. So I was like, well, let's do a 25% off sale. What could happen? It'll be great. And we were barely moving from made to order, meaning we would get an order, we'd make it, we'd ship it, to I had gotten a manufacturer in California, and we had ordered we'd cut a PO for like 200 pairs of moccasins. So we were kind of sitting in this in-between phase, and put everything on sale. And within an hour and a half, we'd sold like 2,000 pairs of moccasins that I didn't have leather for, that were not made. And I was just like, what happened? I was devastated.
Did you already fire him? Because I'd be worried.
Oh, no, he was gone by then. And so I really, like, I called my friend Noelle. She's one of my mentors still. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Just crying. And I'm not a crier. And she like listened to me cry, and she's like, oh, boo-hoo, Susan. It's so hard to be successful. And I was just like, what? And she's like, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, okay, actually, that's a good question. And so I was like, I know, I'll give everyone their money back. I'll get my shit together, and then we'll do this again in a month. And she's like, you're not giving money back. No, try again. So then we just like worked through it, and she's like, here's what you're going to do. You're going to get up tomorrow morning, you're going to put your big girl panties on, and you're going to get to work. And I got up the next day and I was like, okay, communication first of all, let's shut this sale down. Why I left it up for 24 hours, who knows? Shut it down. And then communication is key. And when you're building a brand, especially a brand that is community driven, that Freshly Picked is, empathy is the number one thing. Good brand is empathy. And entrepreneurship and motherhood are just so closely, like it's the same tract almost. It's like, what do the kids say? It's the same words in a different font, really. Like there's so many similarities. And so I just made it a community thing. I was like, you guys, I this is insane. We had like 10x the orders we thought we would have. And we're going to get it done. It's going to take us a little bit of time, but we're going to get all these out. And it took us a month. I was stressed. I didn't sleep. But we then, I don't remember, 5 or 6 years later, tracked those customers that were part of that sell. And their LTV was 300 to 400% more than our current customers that we had at the time. And I think it was because they really felt like they built Freshly Picked with me. And they did.
Which I feel like those are your people. When you've been describing that you want someone who can really kind of dig their heels in when it's hard and just work through it. That's you, and you emulate that, and I love that.
Thank you.
Well, I feel like you've touched on a few things that I love. One, I want to jump to the social media aspect. Would you still say that Instagram is your biggest platform? And what are some of the trends that you guys use now for social media marketing?
I don't know. I'm not in the day-to-day. We buy ads, so Instagram is not a good platform for us. Once you buy ads, your organic engagement goes down. I think Instagram would deny that, but it's 100% true. I think if virality is fun and cool, and what we're seeing at my podcast studio is YouTube is really, really a cool place, and video is cool. Pinterest is back up and running and really doing good stuff. 95% of all American women are on Pinterest. At least they have an account, whether they're active or not, I don't know. So if you're selling to women, Pinterest is an amazing place. TikTok is awesome, but I don't. I think like owning your list and figuring out how to get people either on text or email is like a much more powerful thing.
I love that. Something else that you brought up, the motherhood aspect specifically. I know we have a couple founders in here that are both mothers and founders, and also spouses of founders as well, if it's on the other side. But Mackenzie Bauer kind of phrases it differently. It's not a work-life balance. It's just tips doing both. At the same time, how do you ebb and flow? What's your experience been doing both?
Do you ask men this question, Emily?
I should.
Okay, yeah. Will you?
I will.
Okay, thank you. So Chris became a stay-at-home dad. How long ago? I think Gus was in kindergarten. He's a freshman in high school now. So he does a lot of the heavy lifting at the house. And for me, the mental load is to have that lightened there is incredible. I try to be a good mom, and I try to be a good boss. And I think we have a culture in our family where we don't complain if one of the parents leave. Like, we're not, like, you can miss them, you can be sad, but we're not going to be, oh, I know, because Chris travel. Well, you haven't traveled a lot, but he's traveled in the past. He was on ESPN twice for drone racing. If you guys want to meet someone famous, it's actually Chris. 2 seasons.
You're up here next time.
Yeah, okay. Next time. So we just really try to work together, and we now have 2 high schoolers, and so it's a lot less physically demanding and more like I'm constantly thinking about what's happening in their lives, and figuring out it's just more mental now than it was in the past. And so I don't know. I don't really have a good advice for that. I think as I am really aggressive about asking for help and going after what I want, and I'm not afraid to ask for help. And so I think if you feel uncomfortable asking for help, getting comfortable with asking for help is really helpful.
Well, that's a really good formula too, though. Work hard, dig your heels in, and figure out your crap, and then ask for help when you know you need it. Because if you're working, then you'll be able to gauge that bar. Also, it's not like you're sitting on your butt doing nothing. And also that parenthood is so custom. I just wanted to hear, your side and your story along this journey. How many kids do you have? Remind me.
We have 2. Our daughter is a senior in high school, and our son is a freshman. 2.5 years ago, had a full nervous breakdown, and work did take a back seat for me. That was kind of the impetus of me stepping out of the day-to-day at Freshly Picked.
Okay. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because as you guys and founders here grow with their companies, their role changes.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to do that and figure out which seat you best fit in, or fill your seat if you need to. How was that for you? And can you give maybe some advice, or let's start with your experience?
Yeah. So my team was really amazing. I had been solving a problem for like 2.5 years at the time, and we were getting to the end of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, we made it, we're safe, everyone's fine. And my body was like, cool, so all that cortisol, here we go. And so my team was incredible, and I was upfront with them, like, hey, I'm really struggling emotionally and mentally, and it got bad. I couldn't leave the house, and so they just really stepped up. And then when I came out of that, like 6 months later, I had a good talk with the board, and it was the right thing for me to do, was to step down and for us to promote our CFO to CEO. So that took about 6 months. That was like a 6-month process. So it was about a year. But I think, I don't know. With everything, I just feel like if you're upfront and honest with your team, and you're upfront and honest with people around you, and if you're upfront and honest with yourself to like where you're really at, it's hard as someone who has, I can do 20 things at once, and I can do 100 things in a day. But my capacity went down to just if I had to leave the house, I could do one thing. I could leave the house and do one errand a day. That was it. And so it was hard for me from a capacity point of view. But if I would have pushed through, I don't think I would have been in a good spot. So just being honest with myself first, and then honest with the team. And, we're in a new era where these are real concerns of, I think, a lot of bosses, and so making sure that you're on top of that is a good thing.
Yeah. Are there any policies that you would recommend, or companies to kind of partner with that help employees stay on top of their mental health?
Oh, no, I don't know anything. No, I mean, we have a small team, and so we just kind of take it case by case. I know Nate Quigley and Vanessa do a ton of stuff, and I think they use, I don't know. Yeah, but they have someone that they use too. Yeah.
Gauge your mental health levels, though, and I think that's a great takeaway for all of this. Okay, I was talking to Seth earlier, and we were kind of discussing some of the favorite highlights of listening to someone's story is the mistakes that came along the way. Could you share some of those? I think we'd all be interested to hear what you've learned from that as well.
Mistakes?
Big ones. Or small ones, but they're really helpful.
Interesting. I mean, I have 100, but this is like when you're asking someone what's your biggest flaw and they're like, I'm always on time and like too organized. But I just don't judge my life by the mistakes that I make.
So you can kind of move past and forget pretty easily.
Fast, quick.
Yeah, that's good.
Failure is feedback.
It's true.
90% of the time, the really hard stuff that I go through, the really big mistakes that I make, the money that I cost myself ends up being a good thing for me. Actually, maybe even 100% of the time. Like, I can't think of a time where I cringe when I go to sleep thinking about it, you know? And my formula is that, again, like, what is the scope of this problem? Am I making it bigger in my head? Well, first of all, my first thing is like, feel the feelings. Like, so I have a really good friend. We've been friends for almost 30 years now. And every summer we get together. She's one of my best friends from high school. And she's dealt with a lot of addiction in her life. So she's been in the addiction recovery program, I don't know, for like 20 years. And she is very wise, but like the thing that they do in the addiction recovery program is you have your list of safe people that you call when there's a crisis. And those are people that you respect. So they're either going to give it to you straight or they're going to tell you you're not crazy, and you have to believe both of those things. So the first thing is when something happens is I have my list of about 5 people that I really respect and that I need to talk to, and I make my phone calls and I tell them the situation and I talk through it. And you know, probably I slant it a little in my way, but I try to be really honest about what my contribution is to the issue, and then what has happened. I never want to be a victim, but you know, sometimes hard things happen to you. But that's my first step. Then the second step is making sure that my needs are met. Have I eaten and have I slept? And because 24 hours can do a lot for a problem, especially on a full belly.
Wait, you said something before, and I'm going to forget the verbiage, but if you hate everyone...
You need to eat something.
Yes.
If everyone hates you, you need to take a nap.
That's right.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
So you need to eat, you need to sleep, you need to wake up the next morning. Then you need to make a plan, okay? And then if you're still feeling insecure about the issue, then you need to make a couple more phone calls and talk about it a little more. Usually, if you like, progress is so much better than planning. So once you've made the plan, then you start making progress towards it. And when you're actively moving on a problem, it's not a problem anymore. You're into problem solving, which is like something that you can control. And so you just move on. You learn and you move on.
I feel like that's some of the best advice for our founders as well. These problems, issues that arise, see them as pivot moments and an opportunity to either make progress in another direction or to double down and really find your grit in that moment. So
yeah, I mean, 2 things in life. Nate Quigley says this all the time. He's like, there's 2 rules to business. Number 1, don't quit. Okay? Number 2, don't run out of money. And then there's like 2A. If you run out of money, see rule number 1. And it's true. You just don't quit. You just keep going. You know, I could have thrown in the towel with Freshly Picked about 5 years ago. And literally everyone, including my investors, were like, you can quit if you want. This is hard. And I just didn't quit. And I'm so grateful I didn't. And even with this, you know, I have 5 clients at a podcast studio. I could have quit.
What makes you stay? Because I feel like we fall in and out of love of the things that we're doing all the time. Yep. What are some of the things that you kind of hold on to and remember?
So I love making money. I'm not joking.
I think Ike would agree with you. Where did we go?
So
we all agree with you.
I want to make a lot of money, and so when I make money, I really feel fueled. I'm working with a company right now, and we had a product we were working on for 6 months, and it launched, and we sold 10,000 within the first week, and it was just the best feeling ever. And so I like making money. I like learning. I like feeling like I'm becoming a better person through the process. And Christian doesn't like me being at home all day. He likes me to be out doing stuff. I mess up his systems. So I got to go to work.
Okay. My husband is also at home. He broke his leg and he's kind of figuring it out all by himself. Well, but I'm here, so I understand.
Yeah.
He's going to have his own systems by the time
I
see him again, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next for Susan Peterson then? Both for you and for Freshly Picked if there's new things on the horizon, but personally yourself as well.
For me, well, what day is it? I have a board meeting in 2 weeks that I'm getting ready for. And I have a podcast that I do, and we took the summer off because no one listens to podcasts in the summer. So I'm starting that back up next week. And we're trying to plan our big month trip for next summer and get my daughter ready for college. So, yeah.
What made you start the podcast?
Actually was community. I have built this amazing community at Freshly Picked, and I wanted to kind of put it in a stopgap place because I want to build another business, and I wanted the community to follow me along, and so it was a way to bring my community along with me.
And it's been going for how long? And do you have people coming and sitting and you
Yeah.
chat with them?
So we started it last September. We have 100 episodes out. It's really good. It's charted in the top 200 about 6 times, so I'm happy with it.
Can we get a round of applause for that? I love podcasts, and I also listen to them in the summer. So if you ever want to do it,
I'm one of
in
the only people.
Raise your hands.
I'm going to take the summers off now that I'm a chairwoman.
Yes. Okay. Who have you had on the show, and what are some of the highlights of the podcast?
Oh, goodness. Everyone. We've had probably over, I think, 90 guests. I think that I only did 10 that weren't guests. So, all the usual hitters in Utah. I think it's super, podcasting is an interesting beast because you can't really there's no money in podcasting. That's why I started the studio, because I have to have an economic outcome if I'm putting a lot of time into something. And so, but there are some milestones that if you hit those, then you can start kind of demanding like sponsors and stuff. And 100 episodes is one of those milestones. So I just decided to go for it. And has anyone ever done a podcast? Do you listen to it?
Yeah, we got a few.
Yeah. Do you
RevRoad
listen to your
has a
podcasts? I listen to every single one, and I take notes of ways that I can improve and become better. I look at it like game tape. And so I feel like I got better really quickly from that. And, and one of the problems, one of the mistakes I made at first was when someone was talking, I'd go, and I thought that I was like being encouraging, but when you listen back, it sounds like I'm being dismissive. And so I stopped doing that, and I just really figured out how to pull these amazing stories out of people. And so, like some of my favorite, Kobe Bowers, one of my favorites, I think I said 10 words that whole episode. And he just kind of took over and did it. And so being able to have a platform where I can share entrepreneurial, inspiring stories is really, really cool.
I love that. I feel like I've listened to a few. We've been chatting about this a little bit. But either the content is different than it used to be, or they're not doing it anymore, the Nitty Gritty podcast, right? I love listening to stories. The stories are the best part, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have one more question, and then I do want to open it up for Q&A. This is something that we ask every founder that gets to sit on the blue couch. But what is something fun that your success has allowed you to do?
Oh, my gosh. I don't know. I think it's really fun to, like, Amanda's, you asked me before, you said, are you mentoring any women in business? And I'm actually not a great mentor, but I'm a really good encourager. But I do have one client, Her name is Lisa Richards. It's Amanda's sister. And Lisa and I have been working together for 9 years. And I think what is really fun is to help people build cool things. And Lisa has done an incredible job with her esthetician spa, Skin Boss. And to see what she's built over there is really inspiring. And I feel so lucky that I've been able to be a part of it.
Oh, I love that. Can we get a round of applause for Susan Peterson? Okay, I think we have a couple minutes for some Q&A. Wait for the mic to come to you so that our online listeners can hear, though. Okay. Yeah, I see Chelsea.
Hi. So one cool thing is years ago when you were in Provo, I used to work at a blow dry bar, and we had a bus. Yes, and we got to come and do your hair.
Yes.
Yeah. So your culture, I had some friends that worked for you, and they just loved the culture there. And I'm trying to remember, because like you said 9 years ago, it's like what you remember. But what I do remember from a conversation was, I think Beyonce or some huge celebrity was wearing the moccasins. And if I remember right, and I just wanted to ask about this, you guys didn't pay anyone to like promote your stuff. It was just you would send it to certain people, and if they would post it, and she posted it or something. And so do you feel like that's something you would continue to do now, like with your marketing and sales efforts, of if you have a product that you can send to people? Do you feel like that was just at the time because Instagram still was newer? Because I want to say it was like 2015 or something like that. But I've always told people how awesome I'm, like, here's this company that just sent it to someone and then they reposted it, and who knows what's gone without having to pay.
Yeah. The cool thing about social media, I think, is it, like, you're able to get a hold of celebrities if you want. Like, what we would do is like, oh, who do they follow? Okay, which one's their agent, or which one's their housekeeper? How can we get in by not actually reaching out directly? I think celebrities wearing your stuff now, it's good street cred, and it's good. I would put it in the awareness bucket, but it's not going to be like it's not going to translate into sales. Influencers are incredible. And my approach with we've paid a few, but usually it's through a code. I don't know that we've actually paid a lump sum to very many. And my approach to that is always build a relationship with them and have them feel like there's some reciprocity there. And so we'll have events where we come out and they come out and we wine and dine and we take care of them. We don't ask for anything that at the time. Send them packages, don't ask for anything. And then when we do have something going on, there is like an incentive, like, hey, if you wanted, we'd love for you to post about this and we'll give you 10% off or a code or whatever. And the relationship is always paid way bigger dividends than just like trying to work out a contract would.
Yeah, here. Yeah.
I think over here, sorry. So you've talked a little bit about community. And I think what you've done with community building is really powerful. And you've talked about Instagram and different ways that you've done that. But I'm curious what other ways you have built community besides social media and like your podcast.
Well, I think in-person events are always really good. I think in-person events serve two really cool purposes. Well, not purposes. Sorry, two cool things happen. So we've always done what we call warehouse sales at Freshly Picked, where we sell seconds or excess inventory, and I can distinctly remember every man that I've hired and his first warehouse sale, because I think they're like, I work for this baby company, like whatever. And then we'll have a warehouse sale and people will spend the night sometimes. Oh, You've been to one.
I have.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you've been there. And the guys will always come up to me at the end and be like, people really like our brand. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, thank you.
And so it does this really cool thing for your employees where they feel this sense of ownership and pride. And then for the customers, like it's just an amazing opportunity to get to see behind the scenes and to feel like you're part of building something. And so I think in-person events are great. I spoke yesterday to a group of people, and I think now is the time to be thinking about what activation events you want to run next year, and what buckets are they going to be for awareness? Are they going to be for a product launch? And are they going to have PLK or whatever it's going to be? But I think they're so good for company culture and so good for your community culture as well.
She has a follow-up, and then we'll go over here.
Sorry, I'll make it quick. I'm just curious, with these new endeavors that you have moving forward, which of those things are you hoping to implement, and which ones are you most excited about?
What do you mean?
Like, as far as community building, whether that be
Yeah.
around the podcast and whatnot, are you hoping to maybe do an in-person event for some people who are top listeners? Or
So also last night, one of the podcasts that we produce, they had a live recording, and I'm doing one for my podcast next week, and it was actually so cool. Everyone that was there was so excited because they love the podcast, they love listening, and then for the people that work at the studio, they were like, whoa, this really feels special. So yeah, I love in-person events. I'm actually I'm really personable, and I love people, but I don't love a crowd. And so they're hard for me, but if I can do it, you guys can do it.
Okay, yeah.
I was just going to ask, so when you started Freshly Picked, you had like no resources.
No.
But when you started this podcasting company, it sounds like you had a lot of resources. Did you end up using the money that you had acquired through Freshly Picked? Or were you like, did you do anything differently when you had resources to your name on that second company?
Yeah, you're dumber with money when you have resources. Like it's better to not have a budget, I think, and to get really scrappy around stuff. Right now, we're back because of the partnership split. We're kind of back to being scrappy around it, and I had to bring in an investor for the podcast studio, and I congratulated them on investing in a young female entrepreneur, and but now it's just kind of back to being scrappy, and I like that. I feel like I'm a much better problem solver when there's less resources involved.
Up here in the front.
Kind of in that same vein, how did you find your first investors?
I don't remember. They reached out to me because I had been in Utah Business Magazine, and then it wasn't even on my radar at the time, but we kind of kicked off a process unofficially when we took a call with them. But I hope RevRoad don't get mad at me, Rochelle. So how you get investors is this. I'm going to give you guys a formula. Okay, ready?
I'm excited.
Okay. You just correct me if I'm wrong. All investors who are worth their weight are going to meet with you. They'll happily talk to you. And then at the end of the conversation, they will say, keep me posted. Let me know if I can be helpful. And guess what you do? You keep them posted, and you let them know if you can be helpful. Let them know they can be helpful. So what I did was I met with my investors, and then they said that to me, and I was like, I don't think they're just, I mean, it sounds like a platitude, but I really think that they're being serious. So then I talked to a few other investors. So I had 3, and every month I would send them like a flash in cash, where I'd be like, hey, here's what we did last month. Here's what we're doing this month. Here's the revenue we're kicking, or here's the profit we're kicking off. And then about every 3 months, I would say, hey, do you have like 5 minutes to jump on a call? I have a problem I'm trying to solve. And it was always a problem I had already solved, but I would lead them right to the water, tell them how to drink. They would tell me how good it tasted. Then the next month I would be like, oh my gosh, here's the outcome of that problem you helped me solve. So after a year and a half of that, they were totally emotionally invested in my business because men like to solve problems. And I didn't even build a deck. They just gave me an offer.
Wow. So what if your business is different than like selling a product?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Figure out something they need to help you with.
Okay.
Have them solve your problems.
I hope they can.
And then tell them how smart they are after
Well, no,
they
she
do.
said solve them first and then tell
Yeah,
them
yeah.
and allow them to solve
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
here.
that's right. Would you give me money, Rochelle? You want to invest in a young female entrepreneur? Okay.
So I feel like working mothers get that question a lot about
Yeah.
like, how do you balance it all? How do you do it? I'm curious, how do we flip the narrative and put more pressure on men to be present in their homes instead of just putting that burden on women naturally?
I don't know.
In your company, did you have any culture or policies that kind of put an emphasis on
Honestly, I think a big place to start is paternity leave. Like having that be standard across the board. I think it's really important for, I think, and a lot more men that worked at my company wanted to take that time off and really enjoyed having the time to be with their wife or partner and the new baby. I think that I always just correct my friends. They're like, oh, my wife's going out of town, so I have to babysit. And I'm like, parent, father, what do you mean? But I think at the end of the day, here's what I figured out is like really everyone is trying to do the best they can. They're trying to do their best. And we maybe have bad vocabulary around stuff. But at the end of the, like if you really get down to it, the narrative is probably bad because of the vocabulary used, not because of people's intentions.
Maybe one or two more. Yeah.
This is more of just a fun question for you. So my friend runs the foundation for Tony Finau, and so I know they've worked with you a lot. And you guys made a special line for them when they went to the Masters a few years ago. And so I just wanted to ask, what is the most fun set of mocks that you've made, or the most unique ones that you've made for an event or something like that?
When the Warriors and who was LeBron playing for? Cavs played. Both Steph and LeBron had babies the same age, and we made like for the final game, we made Warriors games for Steph's baby, and then Cavs mocks for LeBron's new baby, and then had them hand delivered to their wives right before the game. So they wore those shoes at the game. That was good.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Susan, for being here today. Oh my goodness, we've loved listening to the stories. Can we get one more big round of applause for Susan? Okay. And I have this.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And then I'm going to welcome Brittany back up to the stage.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Susan. That was so fun to listen to. I wanted to share just a couple of my takeaways, and I hope you all have your own just nuggets that stood out to you that you can go apply to your own work and positions. So one thing I loved that she said, to be a problem solver, not a problem pointer outer, and to take a chance in problem solving. Another thing, just to stay focused on what really moves the needle for your company and not get distracted by spreadsheets and other things that might seem important. And then the last thing is, when you're in problem-solving mode, you are in control. Don't linger as the victim, but take control of the situation and be the problem solver. So thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today. And thank you, Emily and Ike, for participating as well. To wrap things up, we just want to thank our lunch sponsor. It is Central Bank. They also help sponsor our entrepreneur competition, so we love working with them and all the support they offer to entrepreneurs. So we do have lunch in the back. It is Zupa's, so please stay and mingle and enjoy lunch. And then join us again next month on October 5th for another awesome builder series. We will have Sid Crokenhook, sorry, Amanda. I know that's your brother. I'll learn how to say it. Anyway, he's from Album VC, and rather than here, we will be moving to the Kiln, this time for real. And so be sure to meet us at the Kiln in Provo at their new location, and just stay tuned on social media and email updates for more information for that to come. So thank you guys again for coming, and we hope you enjoyed yourselves. We'll see you again next month.